Hello, hello. Here in part 5, we're going to try to answer the question of what does a competitive company even look like? Value investors often reference a company's competitiveness as a moat. Businesses exist in a highly competitive environment, and success will attract competition. If a company has the ability to produce superior cash flow and outsized returns, others will see the profits they are making and want to get in on that action. If a company has not dug themselves a significant moat, then when new competitors show up to play the game, their ability to make money may diminish. However, if the castle has thick walls and a significant moat, then when new players show up and try to play their game, they will find themselves unable to get over the walls. Sometimes it's very easy to identify a strong moat, and sometimes it's very difficult. Companies with proven moats have a history of successfully defending their castle from a variety of opponents. If they are truly successful, they will have driven most of their competition out of business and will have established themselves as a monopoly or half of a duopoly. Examples of monopolies are Microsoft, De Beers, Google, and Amazon. Examples of duopolies include Apple and Samsung, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Lowe's and Home Depot, and Visa and MasterCard. Monopolies and duopolies are typically fairly easy to find, yet companies that will one day become dominant in their field are rather harder to identify. Typically, for a company to become dominant within its industry, they have to do something their competitors can't, or they have to be able to provide equivalent services at a discount. Often, competitiveness can be difficult to quantify. One of the clearest ways to tell if a company is competitive is if they are able to capture market share. If an ever-growing percentage of consumers are turning to them instead of their competitors, it's a clear sign that they are competitive. If the shift in market share is also driving their competitors into bankruptcy, that's even better. When I want to try to evaluate if a business model will find long-term success, I turn to game theory. I use a modified version of Nash equilibria. When using Nash equilibria, one is trying to evaluate the most attractive outcome for participants when faced with choices. For those of you who are not familiar with them, here is an excellent video on Nash equilibria. I recommend everyone pause this video and go watch it. When I evaluate a business model for competitiveness, I set up two sets of Nash equilibria. The first one I set up is focused on the interaction between the customer and the company. The second one I set up is focused on the expected responses their competitors might have in response to their business model. So for example, if a company were to raise prices, they can expect their margins and profitability to improve, but this may come with a drop in revenue as a certain percentage of consumers will instead take their business to competitors or choose to refrain from making the purchase altogether. Similarly, if a company were to lower prices, they can expect an improvement to revenue while margins and profitability shrink, as a certain percentage of consumers will begin making additional purchases and for some of their competitors' customers to shift toward their products and services. When faced with an opponent who is lowering their prices, a company must make the decision on whether to follow suit and also lower prices in an attempt to retain their customers. They will have to run a cost-benefit analysis on how much such a price drop will affect their revenue, margins, and profitability. I will talk more on margins soon, as I'm about to get into how to evaluate financial statements.